People started yelling before I even saw what was wrong. I turned toward the dock and my stomach dropped. My boat Tide Runner was already pulling out of the marina. Music blasting, drinks sloshing, a crowd laughing and filming like this was entertainment. Phones pointed at the water not in panic but in excitement. And at the wheel was Marla Vance, the HOA president. She stood there in a wide sun hat, one hand jerking the steering wheel, shouting HOA day out, as if saying it made everything legal. She slammed the throttle through a no-wake zone. A kayaker barely escaped her path. Someone screamed. She waved back. That's when I stopped thinking about embarrassment and started thinking about injuries. I didn't pull out my phone to record. I pulled it out to make one call. Because Marla thought she was borrowing a boat. She had no idea what answering that call was about to unleash. Marla Vance didn't even slow down when she saw me on the dock. She leaned over the wheel and pointed straight at me like I was the one breaking rules. "Stop being dramatic," she yelled. "This is an HOA-approved community outing." She said it loud on purpose, so the crowd would hear it, so the phones would keep filming, so anyone watching would assume she had authority. Her friends cheered like she'd just won something. One of them shouted perks of leadership, and Marla smiled like she'd been waiting months to hear those words out loud. I stepped to the edge of the dock and cupped my hands. Marla cut the engine. "Right now." She shook her head, wide hat wobbling with the motion. "No, you don't get to hoard amenities. If you live here, you share." That was Marla, in one sentence, one part entitlement, one part performance, all wrapped in that HOA title like it was a badge. Months ago, she'd started circling my boat the way people circle something they've already decided belongs to them. Notes on my door, friendly suggestions, little comments about how unfair it was that I had something she didn't. And now she was using my boat like a floating campaign ad, laughing, waving, acting like the marina was her stage. Then she glanced back at me and shouted, smiling wider, "Relax, after today you won't have a choice anyway." This wasn't the first time Marla Vance had tried to push her way into my life. It was just the first time she'd done it with an engine running. Before that morning, her harassment came in smaller, quieter forms. The kind HOA people love because it lets them deny everything later. It started with handwritten notes slid under my door. We should talk about shared access to waterfront resources. Then it was cornering me by my garage. "Don't you think it's unfair," she'd say, smiling too hard, "that some people get to enjoy luxury while others just watch?" Once she stood, staring at Tide Runner for a full minute, hands on her hips, before muttering loud enough for me to hear, "Leadership should come with benefits." I ignored her. That's what everyone did. Because engaging with Marla was exhausting, and she fed on reactions like fuel. But on the dock with my boat already moving, ignoring her wasn't an option. "Cut the engine," I shouted again. She rolled her eyes and leaned toward her friends. "See, this is what I deal with. People who don't understand community." The crowd laughed. Someone clapped. That's when I realized this wasn't just theft, it was theater. And Marla had finally put herself center stage. Marla didn't just steal my boat, she wrapped herself in the HOA to do it. She pointed back toward the marina office like it proved something. "The board knows about this," she yelled. "This is a sanctioned outing." That was a lie. And we both knew it. But lies sound powerful when shouted confidently and recorded from 10 different angles. A couple near the dock hesitated. "Wait, is this actually allowed?" Marla heard them and seized the moment. "Of course it is. I'm the HOA president." That title hit the crowd like a stamp of approval. Phones stayed up. No one stepped in. Authority even. Fake authority has a way of freezing people in place. She eased the boat farther into the channel, waving at the crowd like a parade marshal. One of her friends yelled HOA perks, and Marla laughed, basking in it. I felt my jaw tighten. She wasn't just taking my property. She was rewriting reality in real time, betting that if she acted official enough, no one would challenge her. That's when Evan leaned close and whispered, "She's doing this because she's never been stopped." He was right. And as the distance between the dock and my boat widened, the stakes stopped being about embarrassment and started being about safety. Marla gunned the throttle. Not hard, but hard enough. The wake rolled out fast, slapping against nearby hulls. A kayaker scrambled, paddling sideways to avoid being swamped. Someone screamed from the dock. "No wake zone," a man shouted. Marla laughed and waved. That's when fear hit me. Not anger, not pride, not humiliation, fear. She didn't know how to handle a boat like that. Her turns were sharp and uneven, overcorrecting, jerking the wheel like she was playing an arcade game. Her friends stumbled, grabbing rails, shrieking half in excitement, half in panic. I saw the channel marker too late. Marla didn't. The bow clipped it with a metallic crack that echoed across the water. The boat lurched. Drinks flew. Someone fell to their knees. My heart stopped. That marker wasn't decorative, it was federally maintained, and now it was damaged because Marla thought confidence could replace competence. The marina went quiet for half a second, then the shouting started. What the hell is she doing? She hit the marker. Is someone hurt? Marla spun around, wild-eyed. Relax, it's fine. It wasn't fine. My boat was damaged, federal property was damaged, and people had been seconds away from getting seriously hurt. That was the moment everything crossed a line you don't come back from. I pulled out my phone not to record, not to warn her, to report a stolen vessel, because this wasn't HOA drama anymore, this was real, and it was about to get much worse. The patrol boat cut through the channel like it belonged there, low, fast, controlled. No music, no waving, just purpose. A bullhorn cracked the air. Vessel tide runner, reduce speed immediately and prepare to be boarded. Marla froze for half a second, just long enough for hope to flicker. Then she laughed. "Oh my God, relax," she shouted back, hand cupped around her mouth. "We're on a private outing. Private. On a stolen boat." After hitting a channel marker, the patrol boat matched her speed with ease. An officer repeated the order slower this time. Clearer. No room for interpretation. Marla glanced back toward the dock toward me. For the first time that morning, her smile faltered. "They're overreacting," she yelled to her friends. "Just stay calm." She did the opposite. She yanked the wheel and hit the throttle. The engine roared. The bow lifted. The wake exploded outward. "Ma'am, reduce speed now," the officer barked. "I'm in control," Marla screamed back. She wasn't. The patrol boat surged, cut her off cleanly, and within seconds 2 officers were aboard Tide Runner. One shut down the engine. The other pulled Marla away from the helm. She lost it. "Get your hands off me. I have rights. This is HOA business. You can't touch me." The officer didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He cuffed her. Silence hit the marina like a dropped glass. From the dock, I watched her thrash, red-faced, shouting at people who didn't care who she thought she was. Her friends shrank back, suddenly very interested in not being involved. One officer scanned the boat, eyes narrowing at the dented bow and the scuffed marker paint. Another turned toward the dock. "Owner of Tide Runner," I raised my hand. Marla whipped around. "This is your fault," she screamed. "Why would you call them?" I didn't raise my voice. "Because you stole my boat. I borrowed it. You took it without permission." "Well, I knew you'd say no." The officer paused, pen hovering over his clipboard. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "that statement is not helping you." They walked Marla onto the patrol boat like she was still in charge, except now she wasn't. She kept talking. She always did. "This is harassment. I'm the HOA president. You people don't understand community leadership." One officer finally sighed. "Ma'am, HOA authority does not extend to federal waterways." She scoffed. "It should." That sentence sealed it. While they secured her, another officer stayed behind with me documenting the damage. He crouched at the bow, ran a gloved hand along the dent, then looked back up. "This impact wasn't minor," he said. "And the channel marker you struck is federally maintained." My stomach tightened. "That carries separate liability," he added. "We'll need statements, repair estimates, and follow-up testimony." Behind us, Evan's phone buzzed. He looked down, then up at me slowly. "You might want to see this." I didn't have to. I already knew. The video was everywhere. Marla screaming I borrowed it, Marla yelling at the Coast Guard, Marla being cuffed on my boat, reels, forums, local boating groups, comments pouring in faster than I could read. The patrol boat pulled away with Marla still shouting, her voice echoing off the water until distance finally swallowed it. Evan exhaled. "She's done." I wasn't so sure. An officer approached me again. "Sir, we'll be contacting you today. There may be additional charges related to the marker. Also, she's disputing your account." Of course she was. "What's she saying?" I asked. He hesitated. "She claims you gave implied permission, and that this was an HOA-sanctioned event." I laughed once. Short, sharp. "That's false." "We assumed," he said. "But once paperwork starts, things escalate quickly." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A text. "This isn't over. You'll regret humiliating me." I looked back at the water where the patrol boat had vanished. The dock was quiet now. Too quiet. Evan slipped his phone into his pocket. "You know she's not going to back down, right?" "I know," I said. "Because Marla Vance didn't just lose control of a boat. She lost control of the story. And people like her don't handle that quietly." As the officer walked away and the crowd finally dispersed, I felt it settle in heavy and unavoidable. This wasn't the end of the conflict. It was the moment she decided to fight back. The confrontation didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened back at the marina, right where Marla had tried to crown herself queen. I was standing near the office when voices spiked behind me. Sharp, familiar. There he is. Marla Vance stormed toward me, face-flushed hair, pulled back too tight, confidence stitched together by pure rage. An officer walked a half-step behind her, not restraining her, just making sure she didn't turn this into something worse. "You did this," she snapped, jabbing a finger at my chest. "You humiliated me. In front of everyone." People slowed. Phones didn't come out this time. They didn't need to. Everyone already knew. "Lower your voice," the officer warned. Marla ignored him. "You could have handled this privately. You could have talked to me." "I did," I said. "You stole my boat." She scoffed. "Borrowed." That word rippled through the small crowd like a bad joke. Marla straightened, lifting her chin. "I'm still the HOA president, and this marina operates in our community." The officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, that's incorrect." That was the moment the room shifted, when authority stopped being something Marla could fake. The officer opened a folder. "Let's be clear," he said, calm but firm. "We have video evidence of unauthorized use of a private vessel, reckless operation, failure to comply with lawful orders, and damage to a federally maintained channel marker." Marla's mouth opened, closed. Another officer held up a tablet paused on a familiar frame. "Her, on my boat, shouting, laughing, ignoring commands. That video is edited," Marla blurted, "taken out of context." The officer didn't blink. "Multiple angles, multiple witnesses." He gestured toward the water. "We also have physical evidence. Damage to the bow. Marker impact confirmed." Marla shook her head wildly. "He set me up." Every eye turned to her. "You're saying I damaged my own boat?" I said slowly, then called federal authorities. "To frame you," she hesitated. "Too long." I mean, you were jealous," she said, "of my position." The officer looked down at his notes. "Ma'am, you stated earlier that you took the boat because you knew the owner would say no." Silence. "That's a confession," he added. Marla's face drained of color. She unraveled fast. "This is insane," Marla snapped, voice cracking. "People like him don't get to decide what's fair. Leadership does." "No," the officer said. "The law does." Marla laughed once, high and brittle. "This will blow over. It always does." "It won't," he replied. "Charges are being filed. Restitution will be required. And your HOA status is irrelevant here." The word irrelevant hit her harder than the cuffs ever could. She turned to the crowd, searching for support. None came. People looked away. A few shook their heads. "You're all going to regret this," she said, but even she didn't sound convinced. The officer stepped beside her. "Ma'am, you're done speaking." As they led her away, Marla twisted back toward me one last time. "This isn't finished." I met her eyes. "It is for me." The marina felt different once she was gone, lighter, quieter, like a storm had finally moved offshore. Evan exhaled beside me. "That's it. That's the collapse." I watched the water lap gently against the dock. Marla didn't just lose control of a boat. She lost the one thing she'd always relied on, everyone else backing down. When the officer's footsteps faded, the marina didn't erupt into cheers. It just exhaled. The water kept slapping softly against the pilings like nothing had happened. The same breeze carried the same salt smell. But the tension that had lived here for months, Marla's tension finally loosened its grip. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been bracing until my shoulders started to drop on their own. A couple who'd been watching from a bench edged closer. The man cleared his throat like he'd been holding words for a long time. "I'm sorry," he said. "We all knew she was like that. We just didn't want to be her next target." A woman beside him nodded, eyes down. "She tried to inspect our patio once. Said it was community sightline property. We didn't fight it. We just complied." More people drifted in, not as a mob, but as neighbors who finally felt safe enough to speak. Short sentences, quiet confessions. The same theme every time. We saw it. We hated it. We stayed quiet. Evan stood next to me, phone still in his hand, but he wasn't filming now. He just watched the crowd with a look that said even he understood this wasn't entertainment anymore. I looked out at Tide Runner, dented but still floating, and felt something raw in my chest. Anger that had finally burned down into relief. An officer returned to the dock, carrying a clipboard and a calm that felt almost unreal after everything. "Mister," he said, "I want to confirm a few things while we're all here." He kept it clean and clinical. No drama, just reality. Charges will include unauthorized use of a vessel, reckless operation, and failure to comply with lawful orders. In addition, because she struck a federally maintained channel marker, there will be liability assessed for the damage to that marker. He tapped the paper. "This is the start of your restitution path. You'll file your repair estimate, and our report will support your insurance claim. We'll contact you for testimony if needed, but the video and witness statements are already strong. I nodded, and it hit me how simple it sounded when someone spoke in facts instead of HOA threats. No violation notice, no fines start today, no fake authority, just consequences. The officer lowered his voice slightly. And one more thing, your HOA cannot override maritime law. If anyone tries to intimidate you about this, document it and contact us. I looked down at the pen in my hand, then signed where he pointed. For the first time, the paper didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a boundary written in ink Marla couldn't scream over. A marina supervisor walked up with a fluorescent vest draped over his arm and a bucket at his side. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from cleaning up other people's nonsense. He nodded toward the far end of the dock. She'll be assigned community service here, under supervision. Evan let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. You're kidding. I'm not the supervisor said. We're done with her show. Down the dock, Marla stood near the patrol boat's wake line, jaw clenched, posture rigid like she was trying to hold her pride together with muscle alone. For a second, she looked over her shoulder and caught sight of us. No shouting, no pointing, no big speech. Just a stare that flickered between fury and something else, fear maybe. The kind that shows up when a person realizes the world doesn't bend for them anymore. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I didn't need to. I walked to Tide Runner and rested my hand on the rail where the scuff line curved along the bow. The fiberglass was cool under my palm, the boat steady beneath the sun, still mine. Evan stepped beside me, voice quieter than usual. You okay? I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding since the music started. Yeah, I said. I am now. The water glittered, the dock creaked, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the next threat. Because the truth is, Marla's power was never real. It only worked when everyone stayed silent. And today, I didn't.